Okay, it is time for NXT. Now, before I get started, I want to say that I will be making a gut report this week on what happened in TNA and the letter that was sent to the CEO of Anthem. If you didn't know, a letter was sent. Yes, by the roster itself, sent a letter to the leader of Anthem, not the president of TNA, the current CEO of Anthem, and it's about Scott D'Amore. I will be making a video this week. I don't know if I'll be able to make it tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can. And if it's not tomorrow, somewhere Thursday or Friday, it will be made and it'll be released before Elimination Chamber. But it's interesting. The type of thoughts that's going on in TNA. Guys, understand. Just Alex has not talked about TNA as far as I can tell at all. And that's a guy who is a diehard TNA fan. He hasn't spoke barely anything about it. I'm sure sooner or later, if it will give him views, he will find out about it, and then he'll probably report on it. If he hasn't reported on it, as far as I know right now, this is being done Tuesday. He still hasn't released a video other than what he's already talked about briefly. JD, he's the only one that has spoken about it. And I know some people say JD has no right to speak about TNA. Yes, he does. He has a voice. He has the right to speak on it. And as someone who's prominent in the pro wrestling industry as a podcaster, he's given a good take on it. So I would recommend that the video he produced, check it for yourself. It may not make you happy because you want someone who reviews TNA to talk about it like myself. But it's someone who's not in it, who's from the outside looking in. Sometimes you get a better perspective as someone who's not really related to whatever you're working on or care about. Sometimes they give you some insights. So check it. Now, we got a lot on this show, and I'm not going to cover everything because I think certain things need to be left out. Not because I forgot, and I have a tendency to... I know I forget things. I'm sorry. It's hard sometimes for me, even with notes. Look, I got notes, guys. See? I got notes if you can see them. It's not, and it's my writing is a lot like a doctor's writing. It's crappy. But I know what I've written down. But sometimes when I get on a train of thought, sometimes I'll forget something. But here, I'm leaving it. Because certain things that have just been put into place, you wonder where they're going to go, and I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm not going to speculate because I think certain times you should let it develop first before you open your mouth on it. Now, North American Championship. Ubafemi versus Alexis King. Now, let me give it to you like this. What really did Alexis King get out of this? It's a big question. Because if they're going to make this important about Alexis King, they would have done this at the end of the show or leave it as its own standing show. And particularly, Ubafemi. What is Ubafemi getting out of this? Because he's a North American champion. Yes, you had like Wesley open the show, but also he closed the show. He made himself relevant. They chose to make him relevant. But when you see Ubafemi, you wonder, this is the first time that they're really letting him have a match with someone who's established in Alexis King, who's former Brian Pillman Jr. He's known pretty well. He may not be as well known as his father, but he's known well. And they just opened the show with him. So that kind of tells you where they believe Ubafemi is, even though he's a big-ass man that if I'm like here, he's like this. Let's make this clear. He's 6'5", I think. I'm about 5'9.5". I would look like his son. His little 10-year-old kid, if his kid would grow big, I'd be about his kid size. But when you see it, you wonder where they're going to go with Ubafemi and what are they doing with Alexis King. And then once you see Mr. Stone coming out because Von Wagner and him were watching in the back, you wonder, they're going to have a feud between Alexis King and Mr. Stone because of his sons being bad-mouthed? That's what it looks like. I'm not going to go any further than it because it depends now on how Mr. Stone is going to put this over and Alexis King because Von Wagner, he's not in this. Von Wagner is not involved in this. He'll have his moment, but it's now about Alexis King and Mr. Stone. Moving on. Now, we got the new Ren Sinclair. the one who accidentally hurt a Jade, or Core Jade, not Jade. Look, I don't hate Sinclair because she hurt Core Jade. It's just so sad that she comes onto the roster and the fans are going to know that one of the things that happened just before she came on the roster is hurting a well-established, well-liked, or hated wrestler. And not everyone's fond of that. So did she do well with a Roxanne Perez? Yeah. It wasn't bad. It was a little sloppy at first because you can see Ren, I think she's still not used to how the process of working in front of a camera is. Because you can tell she looked a little sloppy and she didn't really, and this is what people don't understand, what so many people don't get, that you need to understand when you wrestle in an environment where there's a camera. You need to know when to look at the hard cam or go work in front of the hard cam. You need to at least notice where the two men on the side, or women, doesn't matter, usually it's men, to be able to carry the heavy camera. You need to know where they are as well, because not only you got to take into account the work you have to do in the ring for the fans and your opponent, you got to work the camera as well. And not everyone understands that. And so many fans that loved ROH, and in most cases, many of those wrestlers did not understand how to work in front of a camera. They just worked. And one of the problems that many people don't understand, that a lot of the most established wrestlers that are really loved, they understand how to work a camera. And Sinclair doesn't know that yet. She's a little sloppy. Hopefully she'll learn. And Perez won. And she did talk about making it very clear that it's unfair how everyone has been getting something and I haven't gotten it. And Sinclair reminds me of me earlier, and this was before the match. She just made it very clear. Sinclair's going to learn a lesson from me. Don't be friendly. Don't be nice, because every time they pass by you. Now, I agree with that. In some cases, you have to be a little cutthroat. But the question is, how far are they going to do that with Sinclair, and how far are they going to take this with Perez? Moving on. Briggs and Jensen. I think I am not going to go any further than this. That the match happened and Briggs won. And even though he did talk about, I did this for you, I'm leaving it. You know why? Because right now there is no story. And anybody says, dude, there is a story. No, there is none. There's no story. Hearing Briggs tell Jensen to knuckle up, that's just the beginning of it. Where is the rest of the content? What does Briggs do now? What does Jensen do now? That's going to be the question. That's a very important question, because Briggs needs something. He has what it takes. And he's not like Baron Corbin when he was working with JBL. I think Briggs would do better working with JBL than Baron Corbin. I'm kind of hoping that JBL will appear and work with Briggs, but there's no guarantee for that. And when it comes to Brooks Jensen, I just don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with him. But I do believe Briggs, this could do something with him if he had, like, a manager. Now, Ariana Grace versus JC James. This was some talk in the back. Now, they did not show us the dating of Thea and Raleigh. They just didn't show us. They didn't show what was going on in the date. And I think that was a mistake. They needed to show some aspects of the date, unless they did on Instagram, which was dumb, or on TikTok, which was dumb. They need to show it on the show. Sometimes people still need to see it on the show to get the context. Sometimes you do need it. Or at least show a snippet up on the TV. But let's go in this respect that Ariana Grace, she talked, pissed off JC, and then they had the match. But here's where it gets interesting. During the match, it was fine. But when we saw, how can I say this? Because it's still very early days when it comes to Thea. And it looks like they're going to start dividing Thea from JC and extend the story of JC possibly taking over Chase U. Because my feeling is this. JC James is going to break away from Thea Hall. Sorry. Just said it, sorry. I do believe they've now put down the groundwork for splitting these two up. And JC's going to take over Chase U. This is what I believe might happen. I don't believe it could happen. I do believe it could happen that they're going to take Chase U, which was built to go down in the dirt, to be rebuilt by JC, and then be taken over by her, because not only does she look like the good girl, she probably put something together, or will put something together, that Andre's got assigned, that's going to say, well, if this happens, this is now mine, and I will control it. That's what I think they're going with. Now, it's still early days. I do believe that might be the direction they're going in, but it is a question, because right now, Jasmine helped to beat Ariana Grace. I mean, she hit her in the back and threw her back in the ring, and Thea felt uncomfortable about it, trying to raise her hand, and then they just were there, and we got a Thea over here. That's just how it looked. And yes, afterward, we did get Thea talking with Fallon, saying things are not good. It kind of reminded me, and this is me, this kind of reminded me of Babylon 5, when you see Veer and you saw Naneer at the bar, both saying that they've had a bad day and this is what's going on. Now, of course, there are other references of other places, like New Guy talking about, well, the teacher, I was drugged up and the teacher broke my dick. Now, that's what people are going to say that's from, but I went by Babylon 5. It's a little more cleaner. Teacher breaking a guy's dick, that's just scary. But you get my point. Next, we got the number one contendership for the tag titles. Now, the opening, we got the tag champions of Corbin and Breakker. Now, was it cringy? Yeah. Was it stupid? Yeah. Were they a-holes? Yes. But did it fit their personalities? Yeah. And you could see, and I'm just saying this right now, when you look at Baron Corbin, he legitimately looks like he's having fun. This is very rare to see a wrestler show signs of actually enjoying what they're doing, because they'll go with what they've been given. As John Cena says, take a load of shit and turn it into gold or lemonade. It doesn't make a difference. You got to go with what you're given. But in this situation, I do believe Baron Corbin is really enjoying this. This is one of the rare times I think the way he delivers is really natural. No, I don't know about anyone else. And I'm not saying Baron Corbin is one of the greatest when it comes to the mic. He's not. He's been okay. Sometimes he goes a bit above being okay to good. But here, this is one of the rare times that he is really good because he's having fun. This is a rarity. And, of course, Braun Breaker's fine. He's all right. He's still new in the business, and he has his moments where he messes up and has his moments where he's okay. And the Spear of Days, that might be interesting. But this is where we're at. And now we got Axiom and, well, let me give it to you like this. Chase U versus Axiom and Frazier. I do not like the mixing the music. I hate the mixing. Honestly, I'd rather them have one of them come out with their one of the music, and if they win, the other one plays the other music. I think it would be better, because when they mix them together, it just sounds disjointed and it gets on my nerves. I don't mind the phasing of the camera, because it's a nice, cool thing that Axiom does and Frazier's doing it with him. But honestly, let's make it clear. The music mixing sucks. And in this situation, what did we get? We got Axiom Frazier doing a good job, but jobbing to Chase U. Jobbing to Chase U. But the OC comes out and whoops their ass, along with Frazier. And we're actually going to put the OC, who literally has done nothing for months, onto NXT. I'm not against Luke and I'm not against Carl. I'm not. But they've done nothing with them for months. Now, it could be because both of them have been injured, or both of them just been sitting in the back doing absolutely nothing, getting a paycheck like most of the people in the back. But I can tell you, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. I don't. If you're going to do something like this, you might as well throw Michin back into NXT, because literally, what is she doing on the main roster but jobbing her ass off? She has done nothing. Nothing. I'm just saying, this is just me. Next, Lash Legends versus Kiana Jordan. For once, I'm remembering Kiana's first name. I believe that's her name. I will not tell you the match was bad. It was fine. But I got to say this honestly. When you look at Lash Legend, I've never been a fan of her. No. Yeah, she's a big-ass woman. But as I've always said, her character never worked. It just never worked for me. Never. Saying that she's a legend, no. No, I don't feel it. I never felt it. She just felt crappy. She has what Valkyria needs. Her original character when she first came in, where she was mythical, that should have been Lash Legend. That's how I felt. But she did a good job here, and she was very rough with it. And it worked. It sold everything there. Not saying there weren't some botches from Kiani or Lash, but it was alright. In the end, Lash did win and got the pin. I'm not surprised. Now, let me give it to you like this, because I am talking about Lash Legends, and yes, a little bit of help from Miss Jackson was not something I'm not surprised about. But let's go to Mensa and a little bit of... Look, the catch as catch cam style of four guys that are in a group that now want to get the Heritage Cup from a Nolan Dar, you wonder who's going to be the one who's going to go up against him. The only person I think that would be the best person to do it, Charlie Dempsey. That's me. It's just me. It's not Luke, Duke. Oh, it's not Guad. It's not Kemp. It's not what is that other guy's name? I can't remember because I haven't seen him much. But Brock, I believe his name is Brock. Can't remember. Brooke or Brock. The only one that makes the best sense is Charlie Dempsey. He's the only one that makes sense. The only one that seemed to really fit the best to go and get the Heritage Cup, since his dad is from England, is him. So I'm only saying that. Hopefully we will get it when they have that match next week. I know I could talk about Dijak when it comes to Joe Gacy, but I'm going to leave that. I'm leaving it. Yes, I know. I saw the padded room. I've seen it. Actually, here's an interesting fact. A relative, well, not a relative. I knew someone who had nearly lost, had a nervous breakdown and ended up in a white room. That's what they call those rooms, a white room. Where you go in there, you're quiet by yourself, and counting if they medicate you or not. Not strapped up, but a white room. I knew somebody who went into a white room because they had a nervous breakdown. And those rooms are very interesting because I actually saw it myself. I saw that room. It just looks like a regular room, but it has padding in it. They have lights in it. It's not that bad. It just depends on the person who takes it. And seeing Dempsey in there is interesting, but I'm not going any further because the question is going to be, how far are they willing to go with this? I'm sorry. It's going to be a question how far it is, not about the story itself. Moving on. I will say I didn't mind when it came to Mella going to the barbershop and talking, as well as whose vid pack was better? Was it Mello or was it Ilya? Ilya's was okay, but Mello's was a little better due to the fact they had to elaborate more on why he acted the way he did. Now, of course, it is mostly a repeat of what he said in the ring, in a chair, talking, and first time he says, no, I'm not ready yet, you're not ready, and then he did it. That was weeks ago, but you get my point. It made sense they had to do that. It wasn't bad, but Ilya wasn't bad either. I mean, Ilya's not great when it comes to Mike. He just isn't. I'm not saying he's garbage, but he's just... That's not his strong suit. His personality is his strong suit, not his mic skills. But he did elaborate well, and it was all right saying that you screwed over your own boy, then you tried to blame me, and then you nail your boy in the knee, and then you try to nail me. I'm waiting for you next week. I want to go face to face in the ring. So we'll be seeing that. The Don. Let me give it to you like this. The Dawn possibly rebooting into something more vicious is interesting. Ridge Holland, and I'm only doing it that as far as I'm going with the Dawn. When it comes to Ridge Holland, it's also, well, not the same, but it's confusing. Because now he's going to apologize for what he did. The question is going to be, is it going to be apology and he's going to turn and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't do worse. That's what I'm hoping for him, but it's still kind of confusing. If he's kind and apologizes, that makes no sense. I'm just saying. Finally, as you see the title, if I'm forgetting anything, I'm sorry. Final match. Shotzi is out. Legend is in. Excuse me. Let me give it to you like this. I had heard that Shotzi had gotten injured. Now, for me personally, as you guys know, I've already spoken about it multiple times. I am not against Shotzi Blackheart. I'm not. But what has she done? They had a moment where they could do something substantial with her when she got her hair shaved off. Well, of course, they did it because of her sister having leukemia and she wanted to show love for her sister by shaving her hair. But they never went very far with it. It went to it was like this. It kind of went like this. And then didn't do nothing with her. Nothing. And I think see it like this. When it comes to Shotzi, I have never been against her. She's a beautiful woman who does seem like she can talk pretty well. She can wrestle to a certain extent pretty well. When we saw the match between her and Lyra Valkyria, it was not a bad match. She was actually quite spry. She was actually using a good amount of mat sense. It wasn't bad. But I'm going to tell you this. When you look at Shotzi, she has done nothing on the main roster. She didn't do nothing in Raw. She looked really awkward when she was in War Games, not because she couldn't get the work done, but she just looked like the odd woman out. She didn't look like she belonged there. She didn't. And it looked awkward. And then all this time until basically now, what has she been doing? What? She didn't do that well when she was in the Royal Rumble. She looked awkward in the Royal Rumble. Not because she couldn't wrestle, but it was like when she was in there, she didn't want to fully engage and really be rough with the women. She looked like she was trying to be as gentle as possible. And that didn't look right for her. And you see it here. It's the only glimpse where you can see that Shotzi can wrestle. And being a beautiful figure of a woman, she's got a good looking body. She's got a good looking face. She got a great set of boobs. She can talk. She can wrestle decently well. But what is she doing? Nothing. I think it was like, for me personally, this is how I feel, that when it came to Shotzi, it felt like she lost the interest in really pushing herself. She did what she did with her sister, but when that push ended, she didn't care anymore. That's how it felt. Yeah, she's doing what she's got to do, but it feels like she's odd. Like, what's the point? I'm just going to do this because I got to do it. That's the way it's been feeling for me personally. Now, this kind of felt better because, yeah, she didn't talk that much. And when she was in the ring, she was wrestling pretty well. Until she decided she wanted to do Lyra Valkyria and bump her head into the hardest part of the ring. She did it when she landed. I believe it was her right knee. I think she must have blew it out. Because after that, and here's the kicker, you didn't see it during the match. You saw it during the commercial. After she blew her knee out, the commercial went on. She tried to get up. She walked around a little bit, hopping, and then she fell to the ground and looked like she might have been crying, which I wouldn't blame her. Look, like I said, I'm not against her. Who wants to get your possible knee blown out? If she blew out her knee or ankle, whatever hurt her. Either she blew out her knee or blew out her ankle or something else. But she's out. And then they inserted Last Legends. Now, so it gets interesting. I am not a Last Legends fan. As I've said, I am not one. I do not care about Last Legends. As being in metaphor, she's just another body in metaphor for Nolan Dar to have someone to play off of. But in this match, for a high stage, understand. You see I'm botching here because I'm thinking, what happened to Roxanne Perez? Why didn't she come out? But she did not. She was seen in the back. She got angry that there was a match and she wasn't even allowed to be in it. Because Ava set it up, and I will say this again, I have no choice. Ava does not feel like a GM. She feels like an errand girl. She still dresses the same way. Guys, if you haven't noticed Ava, what is different about her? She's still wearing the same old clothes, and she's still acting the same old way. It's not because like that. Her expression on her face is not about that. It's about her persona she exhibits. Nothing. I don't see anything from Ava. She looks exactly the same. She wears the same clothes. She hasn't tried to change her stick. She hasn't tried to do something to make her feel like a GM. Like sitting at a desk, working, or looking at something. Nothing. Just once with William Regal. And now she doesn't feel legitimate. I think she just got shoved into this because of her dad. And I'm sorry. And I'm not against Ava. I want to see her really feel like she's legitimate. But when is she legitimate? She hasn't even been seen with HBK and giving good advice to HBK and saying, this is how, hey, why not do this? And HBK says, that's a good idea. And she does this periodically, talks to HBK to show HBK. She talks to HBK. None of it. So where do I believe she's legitimate? Nowhere. But I will say, Last Legends did actually quite well. And I'm not a fan of Last Legends. And I'm not saying because her boobs are bouncing over the place I'm saying it either. I'm saying legitimately she didn't do a bad job. She made Lyra look like $1,000,000, doing everything she could to make her get beaten the fuck up. And yes, she didn't do that good when it came to selling, but she didn't do bad either. And that is something I have to take account of. I got to take account of it now. So the question is going to be, what will they do with Last Legends after this? Will they give her something? Because I saw it. I saw that she can work a match. And yes, she's still very rough around the edges when it comes to selling. There is no way. There's no way you can't say it. But I think she's done well. But it's just me. Peace.